Hi, and welcome to Burlington at Work. I'm your host, Nicci Kadilak, and here's what's happening in Burlington this month. The holiday season is upon us, and from the tree lighting on the town common to the annual Santa party at Grandview Farm, from the community menorah lighting to special holiday religious services, from the wish tree at the Burlington Mall to food collections hosted at various locations, organizations in town are finding ways to connect the community and give back. Be sure you're reading your daily buzz and checking out the events calendar on our website to keep up to date on all the opportunities. The BHS winter athletic season is underway with basketball, hockey, swim, gymnastics, wrestling, and indoor track kicking off the regular season action in mid-December. And speaking of athletics, the Burlington Pop Warner cheerleaders have a lot to celebrate after a successful fall season. Their hard work earned them a trip to nationals in North Carolina, where they competed on December 11th. The junior Pee Wee team took third place, and the Mighty Might team took second. Great work, girls. Planning for the third annual Civic Expo is underway. This event, hosted by Burlington Buzz in the town of Burlington, is a chance for residents to meet the people who keep Burlington buzzing, all under one roof. Come to connect with your neighbors, get your questions answered, enjoy food and entertainment for all ages, and even enter for one of several door prizes. The Civic Expo will be held at the Burlington High School cafeteria on January 14th from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. The Burlington Public Library is launching a teen writing group with funds from a Young Adults Write Now grant from the Horror Writers Association. This is the first writing group at the library in a decade, and it grew out of community feedback. Congratulations to the library for winning this competitive grant. Burlington's Animal Control Officer, Jamie Jeffrey, reminds residents to keep their pets safe and warm as the weather gets colder. Massachusetts law restricts tethering dogs during weather advisories, overnight hours, and for more than 5 hours a day, and requires humane collars, proper shelter, and access to unfrozen water. Puppies under 6 months should not be tethered at all. And in extreme cold, limit outdoor time for all pets, protect paws from salt and ice, and make sure animals have a warm, draft-free indoor space. That's it for the news. Next up, I'm joined by some guests to discuss running for local office and why it's important to start planning your run now rather than waiting until spring. This is Burlington at Work. Thanks for joining us here on Burlington at Work. Today, our conversation is going to center around elections. It is December, and our town election happens in April, so you might wonder why we're talking about elections right now. We will get to that in just a few moments and really learn why it's so important to start thinking about the annual election earlier than you might anticipate. With me today, I'm really happy to have Jennifer Priest, who is our town clerk.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we've got Jack Kelly here, who is a local government veteran. You've been in a couple different roles over the last 50 or so years, is that right?
Since 1969.
Wonderful. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us today. And we have Larry Warfield, who is our local curious resident, and he's got some information for us about how the elections have changed over the last several years. So welcome, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's start just with the very bare basics. There are many people who say, I don't want to get involved in local government. I don't care. I don't like politics. I don't know why this is important, or thinking that like the national government, what's going on at the national level is not as important as what's going on here locally. So what are some good reasons to consider running for local office here in Burlington? And Jennifer, I'll start with you.
I think the age-old, like the more important election is the federal election. I don't know how it curated over the years with people, but it did. But local government actually is the one that does the most. You'll see the most from those positions in regards to in your everyday life here in Burlington. So for me, as I've learned these things over the years, I've, realize that what happens at a planning board meeting or a select board meeting or even a town meeting directly affects my everyday life here in Burlington.
Yeah. Jack, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I think local government is far, far different than what you see in the news with the national government. First, it's nonpartisan. You go to a local election, there's no party after the person's name. And I think the civility in our local government is umpteen levels above what we see in the news for what's going on in Washington. So if you don't like the politics that's going on in Washington, try the local politics. It's more civil.
And Larry, what do you think would be a good reason for somebody to want to run for local office?
Because you want to make a difference, you want to contribute to the community, and you have something to say. So.
Yeah, wonderful. So let's talk about the election actually coming up. We have an election in April every single year here in Burlington. It doesn't have anything to do with the state election or the national election. This is just for local office. Jennifer, what are some important dates we can look forward to in April?
So in April 11th is our town-wide election. That is set by our bylaws and is set every year. The bylaws state the first Saturday in April, of course, pending around the holidays that we have come up this year. We have an Easter weekend, the first weekend. For people who are interested in running, we have January 2nd is the first day to start pulling nomination papers for whatever office you'd like. There's town-wide seats, and then there's also town meeting seats. Papers are due back with signatures by Friday, February 20th.
And for town-wide races, we're going to need 50 signatures.
Correct.
And for town meeting races?
10 for the precinct.
10 in your precinct. So making sure that you're getting those people that are your neighbors to help support your run for whatever office you decide to take. You already mentioned why this is in April. It is a state law. It's a local bylaw, and it might seem like it's sort of out of the blue. I know I used to drive down the street and be like, oh, election this Saturday. What election? Where? Why? Who are we voting for? But that's why. So every year we've got a lot of open seats. So let's talk about that actually next. So we have many open seats. We have a lot of elected offices in town. First up, I'll talk about this one, is town clerk. So that's your role, and
Correct.
You ran for it last year.
Correct. I was filling the 1 year that was left on Amy's term last year. So I am up again, and then it's a 5-year seat. And then we have town moderator. It's a 1-year seat every year. So the moderator runs every single year. Select board has 1 seat available this year. Other years it's 2. It's a 3-year seat. The assessors have 1 seat this year for 3 years. School committee has 2 seats, and they are 3-year terms. The library trustees have 2 seats. It's 3-year terms.
Yeah, what's on that next slide there, Robert?
We have the planning board with 1 seat for 5 years. The Board of Health with 1 seat for 3 years. The Recreation Commission is 2 seats for 3 years. The Shawshene Tech School Committee is a one seat for 3 years. And the town meeting is based on precincts. We have 7 of them, and there's 6 seats per precinct. And those are 3-year seats. And then precinct 1 has a 1 seat for 2 years. Excuse me, I'm a little tongue-tied. And precincts 2 and 7 have 1 seat for 1 year each.
And those are folks who have, for whatever reason, not been able to finish out their term, and the rest of the term is being elected out.
Correct.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. Well, let's talk about the time commitment. So there are lots of different roles, lots of different time commitments for a role. The library trustees, for example, meet once a month, every other week,
Bi-monthly?
Bi-monthly. And the work that they're doing is relatively self-contained, I would say. Whereas we got, a select board member or a school committee member that meets also bi-monthly, but has a lot of other subcommittees and other things that they do outside of that. Can you talk a little bit more about time commitments for the different seats?
Yes. So the school committee roles typically hold other seats on other committees within town. So there's a school committee member that helps with the rec commission. There's select board members who are on other committees within the town. So they have more than just their boards or committees roles. Town clerk has a lot to it. Planning board also has a lot of responsibility to it. So those ones have 5-year seats, and those are written out in our bylaws. And some of the more simpler roles that would have what would seem like a less time commitment, and also is what you want to put into it. Town meeting has its 3 meetings a year. They do run multiple evenings, but as a town meeting member, you can choose to put more into it and join a committee that meets year round, working on other things as well.
Yeah, so thinking about sort of how involved you want to be, how much time you want to put into it, and how much time you have available, there's kind of something for everyone.
Yes.
Really. Aside from those role-specific things, so there's, for the planning board, for example, it's really nice to have some kind of knowledge of town planning before you go into it. But what are some just general characteristics that you would say, Jack or Larry, that would make somebody a good candidate for running for office?
I would say willing to put in the time and effort to learn. Most of these offices, it's more than just showing up for the meeting twice a month. There's probably 3 or 4 times the amount of time spent preparing, and for new planning board members, learning a lot. There's a lot of state law that dictates what a planning board does, and then you have to work with the local zoning bylaws as well. So time.
Yeah, and there's prep going on ahead of time, right? You have to read about the things that are going to be before you. You have to maybe contact people, talk in between meetings about things, visit sites.
But without violating the open meeting law.
But without violating the open meeting law. So that is something you've got to be very aware of when you hold an elected office. Larry, what would you say?
Certainly familiarity with the town and what's going on in the town. Some understanding of town government, how it works, how it functions, how things get funded is also a valuable thing for people to bring to the party.
Yeah, I agree with that, and really even just watching, a select board meeting once a month or watching the town meeting and sort of seeing how things run and what the process is can be really informative and helpful. What if somebody says like, oh, I'm not qualified enough, or I'm not experienced enough? Like, Jennifer, what would you say to them?
I would look at the skill set that the committee or board does. So if you're interested in select board and you have a background in, what am I thinking of? I'm so sorry. If you work in the private sector and you work doing management and these skills, those skills may easily translate over into these roles. I think it's kind of matching up the skill sets, and then, as Larry and Jack had mentioned, understanding how municipal government functions. It's not going to be as fast as the private sector, but there is the policies in place to keep things, checks and balances in place.
Yeah, and I was going to say something that I completely lost, so I'll just go to my next question, which is about town meeting. This is a town meeting is kind of a different beast than the rest of the elected offices, because those are in the executive branch, if you want to understand it that way. Town meeting is our legislature, and there are 126 people that are elected to that role at any given time. What makes a good town meeting member? And Jack, I'll ask you because you've been on town meeting more, in one way or another.
I was one of the original town meeting members in '72.
Yeah.
Took a break for 17 years on the planning board, and then I'm back on. A lot of what elected officials do is just applying common sense. But you need to do your homework too. I don't think you can be a good town meeting member just showing up the night of the meeting. There's a lot of time spent, and I think talk to your neighbors to find out what they're thinking. Talk to your neighbors to let them know what's going on. Ask them to get involved. Those would be the big things, I think, to do.
Yeah, not just kind of sitting in your silo. And this is actually, I remembered what I was going to say. Most elected folks in town are happy to talk with other people who are interested in learning about their role. The Civic Expo is a really good chance for that. January 14th, please come. That was not planned, but if you're interested in running for something, reach out to somebody who holds that position and see what their actual time commitment is, see what their actual responsibilities are, and why they love what they do. People don't volunteer for government roles because of the fame and glory. They do it because they care and they are invested in what they're doing. What if somebody is interested in running for a role? What do they need to do? And Jack, as somebody who's campaigned for a lot of times, I'll start with you, and then we'll have Jen add anything that we need.
Unfortunately, today, if you go for a townwide office, you have to plan on raising and spending a lot of money.
Okay, how much is a lot? 6,000 to 8,000, roughly.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
In the early 70s, I was involved in campaigns. You didn't spend money sending out mailers, which is thousands of dollars. You'd get 6 people with a station wagon, if you remember what those were, 4 kids and 2 adults, and you have Xerox flyers. And in 2.5, 3 hours, every door in town was hit, and then you bribe them with pizzas. That was a big
The kids,
campaign.
not
Yeah.
not the voters.
Not the voters. Yeah, right. And you'd cover the town, and that was the big thing. You had newspapers. You might buy an ad for $25 or something, but the level of money that's spent now just has changed the landscape considerably.
Yeah. And that is so for townwide offices. For town meeting offices, it's a little bit, it kind of depends on where you are, how many people are running.
Town meeting, if you go knock on 50 doors in your neighborhood, you're going to get in.
I've seen that happen in my own precinct. I'm in precinct 6, and there was a competitive race last year, and the 2 people who were sending personal letters and going and knocking on doors actually ousted 2 incumbents for that role. So yeah, I mean, getting to know people and shaking hands and looking people in the eye is definitely something that is...
Door knocking, even in state campaigns, is known to be very effective.
Yeah, great. Did you have something to add, Larry?
No, basically Jack just covered it. So.
Wonderful. So let's talk about how this has changed over the last 50 years, 40 years, 5 years. Jack, can you give us a general overview, and then we'll go to Larry for some of the data? Now, you explained a little bit, right, of the pizzas and the Xerox flyers.
I think the money and having to raise that money, asking people for money and digging into your own wallet for that has driven away some of the younger people who just can't come up with that kind of money. They're just not going to do it, and I don't blame them. The time commitment has changed. When I was first looking at, the planning board, we had 1 staff member. The planning has become so complicated. It's 3 staff people there now running it. In the Board of Health has a deep staff, Conservation Committee, the number of people in the Selectman's office, there was an executive secretary. Now we have half a dozen people there.
Yeah, that's a big office.
Running the town, because of state law, because of many changes, has become more complicated.
Great. And let's talk about specifically voter trends. So I said at the beginning of this recording that we are talking about the April election in December, which for a lot of people seems just way too early to be talking about something that's going to happen 5 months from now. But there's a reason that we're talking about it right now. Larry, can you tell us a little bit about how voting changes have influenced the way people should be campaigning?
Well, the big thing is starting in 2020, the state instituted early voting. And no longer do people show up just on April 11th and cast their vote, but for a period of about 4 weeks before, they are busy casting their votes.
And yeah, we have a graphic, I think, that shows that. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, so for people who are considering, this tells you the importance of getting out and getting in front of the people that early vote. The light bars are the early voting bars, and we average about 50% early voting across all elections. I did a lot of analysis in 2024, which was a presidential. It was a little bit higher, 61%. And then if we got another one, another graphic that has the schedule. This is really busy, but there are really only 4 things that you need to know. That whole thing is a period of the time from when early voting ballots went out to when election day was. In 10 days, 17% of the people had gotten their ballot, filled it in, and turned it back in. A week later, we were up to 40%.
Yep.
And the day before the election, we'd already cast 60% of the votes. So if you're a candidate and you're just waiting for election day, and that's when you're going to get your people out, I'm sorry, it's too late. You've already missed the boat.
Yeah, yeah. And so this really, keeping this in mind, I mean, I definitely, if I were watching this on my YouTube, I would screenshot this and say, when should I be doing mailers? When should I be doing lawn signs? When should I be doing sign holding in the town center? When should I be sending out friends cards? And this really should be influencing the way people are campaigning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I would like to see different there is the total number of voters. Even though a lot of people are voting early, we don't seem to be increasing the total number of voters by a substantial amount, even though we've made it so much easier.
Yeah.
What do we do to get more people out?
Yeah.
That's a big question.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it all goes back to the question that we asked at the very beginning, like, why should people become involved, right? Because they care about what's going on in town. I mean, I've been talking about this a lot lately. There's just so many layers to getting people involved. There's first, things are happening that you could know about. Then know about the things, then be involved in the things, then
Help make those decisions.
Help make those decisions. Take a deeper role in making those things happen. But it takes effort. It takes knowing where to find the information, knowing that the information's out there to begin with. So luckily, BCAT and Burlington Buzz are there for folks to get the resources that they need and hear interviews with candidates and learn about all of the things that either they can do to run for office or that they can do to support candidates who are running for office and then vote later on. What are some effective ways for voters to start reaching candidates? I think we kind of have covered it with Larry's graph, but just to reiterate, if you're running for office, what should you be doing for your campaign?
Well, I think there are a lot of different things that you should be doing. We've traditionally depended upon mailers and their audiences that you can target, but social media is now a big thing. You should be leveraging every friend that you have and communicating that way. Pressing the flesh it's old-fashioned, but it works, whether it's hanging out at True North or knocking door to door. Jack and I were just discussing whether lawn signs are valuable, but it certainly helps with name recognition,
right. Mm-hmm.
If nobody knows you. And taking advantage of candidate forums, the Buzz, BCAT, IAB.
Council on Aging, yeah.
Yes, all those sorts of people is another way to get out there. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And just having a Facebook page on its own is not going to be an effective way to reach people. I'll tell you that right now. If people don't know about it, if people aren't sharing it, it's not going to be super effective. So, like you said, leveraging the people that you know and saying, hey, can you share this with your network once a week for the next several weeks, mm-hmm. I think is really helpful. And sharing a message, not just, hey, vote for my friend, but what is the friend doing? What is the friend's platform that you want to get behind?
Yeah. Dear friend cards, which are still done, those were done 50 years ago. 50 years ago, you'd have neighborhood coffees. A candidate would show up, have a friend invite a dozen, 20 people in the neighborhood to the house, and candidate would come and talk to them. They do 3 or 4 of those a week. Those don't happen anymore.
Yeah, and that is, again, getting in person with people, talking with folks, getting to know, ask questions, getting to know what somebody is standing for, what change they hope to make, or what they hope to accomplish while they're in office.
And I have a question whether whether candidates should consider going to email their friend cards. Lower cost, and you can do them a lot faster, a lot earlier. and even multiple times where
that is happening, but you can't go to the phone book and get somebody's email list.
Yeah.
You go to the phone book, and phone calling was done years ago. Who answers their landline now, if they even have one? There was, years back, you would have people at the polls up until 1 o'clock. They would log in who voted and who didn't. Then they would send that information. People start calling the people who haven't voted yet. That doesn't happen anymore either.
So all interesting ideas for research. Well, as we go to finish our conversation here, I'd love to know from you all, and we'll start with Larry and finish with Jen, what is one thing that you hope to see this time around in Burlington's 2026 election?
I really hope for more candidates and more ideas. More candidates makes the current office holders responsive. Holds their feet to the fire. They can't assume anything. And the other thing is more candidates bring more ideas. And even a losing candidate has good ideas, and they can influence where we go and perhaps redirect the overall trajectory of where Burlington heads.
Great. Jack?
I would want younger people, more younger people.
Running for office or voting,
Yes.
or both?
Both.
Great. Jen?
I'd like to see a larger voter turnout. And I think sometimes those contentious races do bring those numbers up.
Yeah.
But even our contentious races aren't as high as I think a lot of us would like to see.
Yeah.
As we saw from the referendum, unfortunately, negative things bring people out. I would like to see the candidates deal with more positive things to bring out, and more positive things addressed towards the younger folks.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. Just in case you're wondering, the voter turnout last few years, it had been an average of about 15%. I think it ended up being about 22% in 2024, and 18 or 19% in 2025. So there is a slight positive trend, but there's almost 19,000 registered voters here in Burlington. Like, we can get more than 3,000
And what was the number for the referendum?
For the referendum, 38%. Yep. There you go. Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Larry, Jack, and Jennifer. It's been really nice conversation, and I hope that you take this conversation and watch it at your leisure and rewatch it again as campaign season gets closer. Next up, we have some quick facts about Burlington in Burlington 101. At first glance, Burlington's municipal structure might seem complicated, but really, it's just people working together to keep the town running. And we're here to help you understand how the different groups work to help residents like you live your best life in Burlington. As we learned on the last episode of Burlington 101, Burlington's executive branch includes a number of elected boards and commissions, the citizen side of government, setting policy and overseeing many of the town's departments. Also working for you is the professional side, the departments led by experienced staff and overseen by those boards or by the town administrator. Together, they collaborate every day to keep Burlington running smoothly. Public safety? That's our police and fire departments, along with animal control. Infrastructure and snowplows, that's Public Works, with divisions for highways, water, and engineering. Health and wellness, the Health Department, Youth and Family Services, Veteran Services, and the Council on Aging handle that. Planning to add on to your house, start a business, or build a new housing development? You'll work with Planning, Building, or the Conservation Commission, and sometimes all three. Town Clerk's Office oversees elections, voter registration, and vital records administration. And for parks, sport fields, and playgrounds, that's recreation. Behind the scenes, Town Council, the Treasurer-Collector, the Town Accountant, and Human Resources keep Burlington's finances and operations in order. So while the town's organizational chart might look like a wall of boxes, what it really shows is teamwork. Hundreds of people and dozens of roles all focused on one mission, keeping Burlington a great place to live, work, and play. Hi, and welcome back to the Fireside Chat portion of our show today. Today I have with me once again Jennifer Priest, who is our town clerk. Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you for having me again.
So the town clerk is such an interesting role in the town. I think that if you ask, 10 people randomly on the street, what is a town clerk and what do they do? Like, maybe one person would be able to give a pretty good answer to that question. So let's start there. First of all, just who are you and what brought you into this role?
So I am Jennifer Priest. I've been working with the town for It was like 8.5 years prior to taking on this role. I have worked in roles, I consider them like helper roles. I've always had a background in helping roles, social services, giving back to my community. When this one came up, I felt like it was a nice challenge for myself, and it still enabled me to be engaged with the community that I live in and help give back to the community.
Yeah, and so you've taken the role that was held by Amy Warfield for quite a while. This is your first year in the role, and now you're going to have to campaign again for April. But let's
that's all right.
Let's talk about that later. That's a problem for tomorrow, Jennifer, right?
Yeah.
What was something that people might be surprised about the work of the town clerk that maybe even you were surprised about when you came into the role?
I think most people don't realize a lot of the workload behind the scenes. People see the clerk's role in snippets, so you think, oh, I need my birth certificate, marriage certificate, a vital records. I'm gonna go pick that up at the clerk's office, whether it be here in town or if you lived elsewhere. You see the clerk on election day. So, if you show up election day, you see the clerk there. You see the clerk putting out the information about the elections that are happening. People see it as a place to register to vote. And then for people who are involved in town government, they may see us a little more. It's like, oh, that's the office that keeps track of the meetings, or they take the minutes. And in regards to, town meeting and those pieces, I feel at times not everyone in the community knows about those other roles and those pieces and parts that are constantly moving and changing that we keep track of.
Yeah, this is a very dynamic role. What do you find the most meaningful, the most interesting, the most fun about this work now that you've been in it for 6 months or so?
I actually enjoy the multitasking. I like the fact that it's the same job, but you're doing town meeting in minutes and you're submitting them yourself, to helping a committee get up and running and understanding open meeting law and getting their minutes and their postings and such, to greeting a new parent saying congratulations on your baby, to I now have my justice of the peace, so doing weddings.
I was wondering if you were dipping your toes into
yes. So
the marriage part.
we get to do the marriages and congratulate people on those days. We also do notary oaths for people who want to become notary publics. So the role changes a lot, and it's also a great resource. So if someone has a question, they can say, hey, I want to do this, like, who do I go talk to? And it's almost like a librarian of town government. Yeah,
you almost feel like the sort of the backbone and the first line of defense for a lot of the town functions.
Correct.
So we've talked a lot about the roles. We delineated them. So let me see if I can get this right, okay? So we have the vital records.
Correct.
So marriage, death, birth, all of those things. Licensure, dog licenses. Do you hold business licenses
Business
too?
licenses.
Great. You're the chief elections officer.
Yep.
So you're helping run the elections. You're helping maintain the town's calendar, agendas for public meetings, minutes for public meetings, making sure people are notified in a proper time frame.
Yep.
You're helping run town meeting, including the nuts and bolts, but also like getting the warrant out to people. Am I missing anything? That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff already.
And the clerk's office is like the keeper of the record of the town. So we have an archivist that works in our office, and he has books that go back as far as I want to say the last fire, and I can't remember the date, but it goes back, into the 1800s with information about the town, who lived here, birth records and such.
Wow, nuts. It's just a lot. And I think you're like me a little bit, where like if you're doing the same thing for a long time, you get a little bit like antsy. And so having a variety of different things that you have to do throughout the course of the day is probably really good for you.
It's nice to change gears.
Yeah. What is a typical day or a typical week like for you? Let's start with non-election weeks, and then because I'm sure election is just entirely different.
Election's a completely different beast. Yeah. So a typical week, I'm working on making sure things are meeting deadlines that I have in my office to do. There's emails. I get the contact us forms that come in through the website. And it's from those to records requests. We also have internal requests for information at times from different departments. There's meetings. I have town clerk conferences at different times of the year. We have meetings with state departments, and there's at least 3 or 4 that we work with, whether it's Department of Revenue, there's a department for the elections, we work with the Secretary of State's office, so there's multiple things coming at us in a given day.
Yeah, and then so what about election, like during election time? How does the workload shift?
So we do our best to try to keep up on everything else that we offer to the community. The timelines do expand a little, and we do try to give notice to people to let them know, like, you really need that appointment for the notary. And then we really do focus hard on the election. So this special election, the second half of our days were processing those requests for vote by mail and getting those out so that people could get them in a timely manner. And then tracking them and double checking the numbers and making sure all our numbers match.
Yeah, and so now you have one election under your belt. It was a weird one because it was a special election, much bigger turnout than regular elections generally have in April. How was election day for you from start to finish? I know I went a couple times to the polls and saw you there every single time. How does that work from your office's standpoint?
So we set up on the Friday before. The rubber gym is set up by the custodians with the schools. They do a great job. They get all the booths out and everything, and we come in and we bring in the tabulators and all that stuff, and it gets locked up for the night. I'm there at 6 a.m. on a town election because it's an 8 a.m. poll opening.
Yep.
And we're starting, to process things, get things in place that, couldn't be put out the night before. And then we're there till 11, 12 o'clock at night. So we're checking in with the wardens and the clerks for each precinct. We're checking in with the poll workers, making sure they're all set. If we're having technical difficulties, we're helping troubleshoot them. We have a vendor we use for the poll pads. I had to call her at 7 o'clock in the morning because one of them wasn't loading up right. But we resolved the issue, got it working, and kept going on.
Just keep marching, check it off the list, right? So there's also, in addition to election day, you also have early voting, you have mail-in voting, you have absentee voting, which is kind of somewhere in the mix there too. What are some issues that come up, or questions or misconceptions about those kinds of voting?
I think a piece you mentioned, the absentee in there too. So the absentee and vote by mail are treated the same now. I think prior to 2020, you could do a same-day absentee in the office. That has changed where that has to be mailed out now, and I think there was a little bit of frustration with community members around that piece. That the absentee ballots now have to be mailed, so those get mailed out. So that adds a delay to getting things done, and then.
What are some questions that people have? Like you gave me this really handy dandy FAQ list for vote by mail.
Yes, I did.
Before we started filming, this will be up on the town website.
There is some confusion at times with vote by mail in regards to local versus state. The state will send out a nice little postcard that is written out directly to you. It has a nice barcode on it. We scan it into the system. Unfortunately, the state system isn't open for the state elections for our local elections, so I have to send out the sheet that we got this past November, and you'll get it for the special election, and then you'll get it for the April election. Normally the fall elections are only that postcard from the state, and that does cause, did cause some confusion.
Yeah.
But people have questions around if they can fill it out for a family member. There's a portion for you to do that on there. We did a little clarifying on where it's returned to and how to return it. You can bring it by the clerk's office, mail it back to us, drop it in the box out front, and there's also an email to vote@burlington.org.
All right, so if anybody has questions, they can just email vote@burlington.org, and they'll get all their questions answered.
Correct.
By you, probably, right?
Mostly me.
Somebody in your office.
Or the staff are great, and they know a lot of the answers to things. So if I'm not available, they will definitely get back to the community members on their concerns.
Wonderful. So we talked a little bit in the previous segment about voter turnout. Do you have a sense in how Burlington compares with other communities?
I think we are running roughly the same. I think some people feel that we don't have a huge turnout, but overall, looking at other Massachusetts municipalities, we're running probably on the higher end for turnout in comparison, but we're in that like bell curve of like, this is a local election, this is the turnout we get.
Yeah, yeah, and we mentioned this before, but in case people haven't seen that, it was around 15% or so, and the last couple of years have been higher than that. Hopefully 2026 will be the highest yet. That's always my hope, bring more people into the fold. How do you work as an office to make elections accessible to everybody? What are some of the things that you do to make sure everybody who wants to vote can vote?
So we are the office where you register to vote. So we make sure to get that information out, the deadlines to register to vote. We share information on our town website, and I was utilizing the rave system to remind people about the election that was coming up. So not everybody is always driving through town. I know when I first moved to town, I live over by the Wilmington line and Billerica line, and it was literally every day I'd head down 62 into Wilmington and wouldn't see the sign. So I did place some signs out for this special election strategically on some major roadways to hopefully nudge people to be aware of the election that was coming up.
Yeah. Great. And there's state law that also mandates that we're doing early voting and making voting just more accessible to anybody who wants to be there.
And we also have the machine for the people that need accessibility. We have
For Americans with Disabilities Access.
We have one that lives at Town Hall that we use for early voting, and then we have them at the high school as well.
Wonderful. So in order to be the elections officer, chief elections officer, you've got to build trust, right? People have to trust that the elections are going to be free and fair and that there's not going to be any undue influence from the outside, or want to make sure that the voting machines are working. How does your office work to make sure that the community sees you as a trustworthy source for those things?
So in regards to building the transparent communication, we post information early and often. I try my hardest to make sure that it's not sudden or short notice, or not so early that it's like, oh, I did that back in January and the election's in April. So there are, reminders that go out throughout the community. And we follow state law and then our bylaws when they implement. There's strict chain of custody and procedures. We test the tabulators, and that's posted. So if you go to the town website, you can look back. And when I tested the tabulators in November, whoever wanted to could come and watch us test the tabulators, run the test ballots through. And we treat everybody with respect and neutrality.
Yeah, great. What should people know about elections moving forward in 2026 and beyond? Anything changing? Anything coming down the road that we might not know about, but you do because of your role?
No, I think overall, with like the other clerks, there's been some push for more communication in regards to the vote by mail. We're not the only community seeing confusion around that piece. Amy and I sat down and talked out the timetables, and I was really hoping that we could just do one form for all of it, and it just unfortunately doesn't work that way, and the voter doesn't understand that piece. So I know there is some advocation happening at the state level for them to clean it up and clarify it, because
just kind of like a single process for both state and local elections.
I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm excited to see if we can get that cleaned up, because the confusion doesn't help.
Yeah, you're right. Well, as we wrap up, what's one thing that you wish local residents knew or understood about your role as a town clerk and about the elections process?
That's a good one. I think understanding that your vote is truly has the biggest impact locally. It affects your daily life here. School committee members affect, for parents, what happens in the school district. Select boards decisions affect the community member along with planning board. And you're going to see that daily. that elections are run by your neighbors. All the poll workers live here in Burlington. They're your neighbors. They probably live in your precinct. And it's all done here locally with myself and my staff here, and the majority of our staff live here locally. So it's done completely here in town. It's not done, somewhere else. And the transparency checks and balances are in place for every step along the way.
Great. Well, Jennifer Priest, Town Clerk, thank you very much for being here with us today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day.
I appreciate you having me.
Great. Thank you. And we will see you back next time on Burlington at Work.